You are now listening to the fastest show on iSports Radio. My name is Darryl Kinsey Jr. Welcoming you to our lap of the extra mile for today, August 29th, 2024. The stage is set for the NASCAR playoffs. The tide is turning in the Formula One World Championship. And IndyCar just has 3 ovals to finish out the year. And of course, tell me talk about all of this, Jenn B, Christopher Lehman, and Michael Ward. Folks, say hello.
Hello.
Howdy.
Hello.
Good to have everybody back together again. Hey, if you're listening live, whether you're on YouTube, Twitter, or Instagram, make sure you get those comments in. We will be reading them as this show goes on and also putting them on the bottom of the screen. And remember, if you want to follow any of us online, you can follow me at DKJr12. Chris is at Fiji Sims. Michael is at Michael_Ward25. And Jenn B is at Believe Land Girl. So, of course, we have to thank our sponsors and let the iSports Radio guru discuss how you can get more in touch with us. But before that, I did want to say something, give a big shout out to former guest and co-host Lolita Camello, who recently started a job as the deputy editor of motorsport.com. So congratulations to her. She gave us a little shout out in her bio as well. So Lolita, if you're listening, thank you so much. It was wonderful having you on the show for so many years. We are so happy to see you going on to bigger and better things all this time. And hey, don't forget about us. The door is always open if you want to come back on for a guest appearance. So just want to get that out of the way, a bit of house cleaning before we get started. But sit tight. We're going to pay some bills and let you find out how you can get a little bit more in touch with your direct feed for all that is motorsports and all that is sports, which is iSports Radio. Sit tight. We'll be right back.
For the last 10 years, iSports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. Make sure to follow us at iSports Radio on X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube to keep up with the latest in sports and with all of our shows. Also, make sure to check out our daily updated website at iSportsRadio.com. At iSportsRadio.com, you can see our daily show schedule and check out all of our show pages with personal bios to learn a little bit more about each of our awesome hosts. In addition to our show pages, you can catch the iSports Radio blog, Hall of Fame, Fans of the Month page, and our merchandise shop, including t-shirts, tank tops, caps, long sleeves, hoodies, and more. For now over a decade here at iSports Radio, we've continued to be by the fans, for the fans, and we thank you all for your support and for making iSports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hi, eSports Radio fans. This show is brought to you by Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. Planet Jerky is the official jerky of the 2022 California League champion Lake Elsinore Storm, Single A affiliate of the San Diego Padres. This all brisket jerky has gluten-free options, contains no MSG, no sodium nitrate, is low in sugar, and high in protein. Go to their website at planetjerky.net and follow them on Instagram at Planet Jerky. Planet Jerky, the jerky that's on a whole other planet.
Hey there, IE Sports Radio fans. Be sure to check out our sponsor, Seal the Deal Wax Seals by Cecilia B. You just finished your very own wedding or baby shower invitations and you're looking for that extra special touch? Maybe you just wrote a letter to a relative or a friend and you want to add to their smile when they receive it. Then seal the deal with Cecilia's handmade sealing wax stamps for your invitations, letters, and gifts. You bring the deal, we'll bring the seal. You can find them on Instagram at sealthedeal_wax stamps and on Facebook, Seal the Deal Wax Seals.
As always, thank you so much to our wonderful sponsors for making sure that we can do what we all love to do, which is get on here and yak about motorsports for an hour or so. Make sure to check them out at isportsradio.com/seal the deal wax seals for Seal the Deal Wax Seals, and order Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky, which I absolutely recommend. Head over to planetjerky.net. So let's go ahead and get into the show. We're going to go ahead and start with NASCAR, as Daytona did not disappoint. As usual, it came down to a walk-off, and it was Harrison Burton that picked up the win, the stunning upset for the 34th place car in points. Now puts him in the playoffs, and has caused a little bit of controversy because there's certain folks, particularly out of the 2311 camp, that are annoyed that the guy that was last in full-time points got to the playoffs. I'm not one of them, and I'm going to tell you why before I hand it over to my co-hosts. The 2024 NASCAR Sprint Cup season got started at the Daytona 500 back in February of this year. Since then, we have raced all through March, all through April, all through May, all through June, through most of July, and now into August. 25 races have been run. 25 winners have been crowned. For everyone that does not have a win this year that could have locked them into the playoffs, they've all had the exact same opportunity. Win and you're in. And unfortunately, when it gets to this point in the season, when it is crunch time, a lot of teams that are desperate for wins are going to do everything it takes to get that win. One of those teams stepped over the line 2 weeks ago and was similar. I'm not going to try to pronounce that word. As a consequence, lost their playoff opportunity with that win. Harrison Burton did not do any of those things. Harrison Burton made a daring last lap move to take the lead in the Coke Zero 400 on Saturday night and win not only his first career race, but race number 100 for the Wood brothers. And because of that, they get to go to the playoffs and get the millions of extra dollars in sponsorship for at least running the first round. As we'll be honest, Harrison Burton will probably not make it out of that first round of the playoffs. But if you're a driver that has not won a race, say a Kyle Busch, say Ross Chastain, Bubba Wallace, etc., you have had 25 opportunities to win a race. Opportunity 26 comes this Sunday at the Cookout Southern 500. But my issue with complaining about the 34th place car getting into the playoffs is that when those engines fired in February, in fact, I'll give you the actual date, February 19th, everyone knew the score. No matter if you were first in points, no matter if you were 31st in points, if you were running the full season, win and you're in. Every team below that cut line has had multiple opportunities to win a race. And whether it be by poor performance, poor pit strategy, or just bad luck, they have not accomplished the goal of winning a race. And as we come in to round 26 of 26 to settle the regular season and to decide the 16 drivers that will run for a NASCAR Cup Series championship for the remainder of the season, it all comes down to looking back at those races that cost them this opportunity. And now it's time to go forward. You can't complain. You can't ask to change it. You can't have the rules shifted in your favor when you are at the end of the line. The only thing you can do is win, and you're in. So that is my calmed down feelings on the complaints about Harrison Burton winning. I'm going to be less restrained in a minute when we get to what happened with Parker Retzloff this evening, but I'll throw it over to you, Jen, for this one first, and just say Harrison Burton pulled off one hell of a move to win
He
that
absolutely
race.
did. He deserved it. I mean, he did what was needed in the final 2 laps, and he got the win. I mean, Kyle Busch has been doing this for quite some time. He knows what he's doing. He knows how to win a race. He has nobody to blame but himself.
And Michael, Kyle was so close. It's just that outside line got a huge run. And especially with how the air is at Daytona now, this Gen 7 car, if someone gets a run, there is very little you can do to defend it.
Yeah, they had a run down the backstretch. I believe it was the 62 and the 21. And like you said, yeah, there was nothing he can do. And yeah, it's just unfortunate. He got himself in a position to win, and just couldn't get it done, sadly enough. And you know, I always think back to all the cars that were kind of taken out throughout the race that could have won the race.
Yeah, one of those drivers. There was a couple of big accidents. The first one that we're going to talk about, both big incidents on Saturday night ended up with cars nearly or fully getting upside down. The scariest one, though, was when Michael McDowell got up on his side. And Jen, my heart went in my throat when, unfortunately, Austin Cindric made an ill-advised move. 34 ends up getting turned. He goes up on his side, goes into the wall, and I'm thinking when he goes up is, please God, do not go on the fence and turn that car into a cheese grater, because God only knows what happens after that. Thankfully, he was okay.
Yeah, there were a couple of really nasty ones this past weekend. I'm just glad the drivers are all okay, but yeah, a lot of good drivers were taken out pretty early in the race. So, you know, more power to Harrison Burton, and it was awesome seeing Jeff Burton celebrating in the booth.
That was really cool, and we'll get to that here before we go to what happened with Josh Berry. Michael, I don't know if you saw this. No, Chris, you weren't able to watch the race on Saturday, but Lee Diffie, that man could call a soapbox derby and make it sound like the Indianapolis 500. I love this man and his commentary. Please have him do all 36 races next year. I don't care that everybody else has like a commentary. Lee Diffie does all the races as play-by-play. Bring all your color guys that you want. Lee Diffie is that number one guy. He hasn't called NASCAR since Martin Truex Jr. was in the 78, I think. That's how long ago it was. And he was calling that race, as somebody put it, like he watched it the day before and knew what was going to happen. The last lap call was iconic. And when he says, Jeff, your little boy has done it, I teared up a little bit seeing that. I mean, There's not enough good things you can say about Lee Diffie's job.
Not enough.
Some comments from Ralph. Thank you so much, Ralph. Jen, I didn't know you were a little bit under the weather, but it's good to see you happy and healthy
Yeah.
today.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, everybody's getting sick lately.
Yeah. Thankfully, I think we're all getting through it. I think it's this new, the plague variant that is coming through. I have to watch what I say, or the YouTube and Twitter censors will strike us down from the heavens if we say what it really is, which is, don't get me started. We'll be here all night. Speaking
2020.
of, yeah, 20, the red flag for those that have listened to this show for a long time. The second big incident of the day, which I think scared us a lot more, was Josh Berry getting turned. And it was weird because behind him was Ryan Blaney, and they turned the same way. Blaney did not go over, and Berry just had no chance. That car immediately flipped over, slides on its roof, hits the wall, nose first. And I was talking about this with you, Jen, before the start of the show, and I'll go to Michael with this first. I don't really think it's the same, or I don't really think it's better to have these cars sliding on asphalt into the wall compared to bleeding off the energy when they just flip when they hit grass, because Barry's car was upside down and did not slow down at all.
Yeah. Oh, you said Jen. Wait, was I supposed to do that?
Yeah, Michael, you can go.
Oh. Yeah, it was a very strange accident, like you said. Blaney doesn't go over, but Barry does go over. And I was I was listening to the commentators talk about the new stuff they put on the cars to prevent that from happening, and it just kind of made me wonder, maybe one worked and the other one didn't work, or maybe didn't work as well.
It was just so weird. And Jen, unfortunately, NASCAR, they put that second shark fin on the back of their on the back of the cars. That did not keep the 4 from going over.
Yep.
The 34 was more of a contact flip, which I don't care what you do with those cars. You hit a car going that fast in the right rear, it is what it is. But that second one, NASCAR is going to have to go to the drawing board and figure that out.
Yeah, that was crazy. And he flipped and he landed on the top, and he did not flip back, then slammed into the wall and then spun around like a freaking top.
I think it was the hitting the wall part that scared me the most.
Yeah.
That's the part that scared me.
Yeah, I jumped. I went But I was glad that he was able to get out of the car and seems to be okay. But that was a scary wreck, and just the way the car just stopped on its top and just kept spinning and spinning, and then spun into the wall and then spun some more. It was crazy. I'm just glad nobody else hit him while he was spinning.
Yeah, that was my first fear. I think the scarier part was watching him slide into the wall, and you can see it coming, and you're just like, oh God, please, please, please take some energy out of this car. And it just didn't.
Yeah.
The whole time I was saying, don't hit the wall, don't hit the wall, don't hit the off.
Yeah. I mean, and that was my fear. Like, oh God, he's going to the wall, he's going to the wall, he's going to the wall. Bam! You're just like, I hope the safety systems worked, because Ryan Newman started playing in my head when I saw that. Thankfully, he was okay.
Yeah. And I think it's also great that it's like whenever I see crashes like that, like I instantly know, because I guess I have faith in the safety innovations that have saved a lot of lives so far. I'm just like, he's gonna get out.
Yeah. I mean, 20 years ago, I say this every time we have a big wreck, and I'm going to say it every time. 20 years ago, we're probably doing an obituary right now. 30 years ago, we are certainly doing an obituary right now. So despite the safety system not being perfect, the other systems worked. And that is the important part that we always want to stress with these wrecks. The other safety systems worked, and Josh Berry will be in the car this weekend.
Yeah. And it's also a testament to him because like the announcers were saying while it was happening, as the race goes on, you have to keep tightening your straps because they loosen up and you sweat and things slide and move around. So he obviously was keeping himself strapped in properly to ensure that he came out of that as well as can be.
Yeah, you gotta pull those. You gotta pull those belts if you're gonna make this work. So thankfully he's all right, and we'll see him in Darlington for the Cookout Southern 500. Now Darryl's gonna get mad for a little bit. Parker Retzlaff, you may have heard that name. I mentioned him earlier. Finished 7th in the number 62 car for Gone Motorsports in one of their one-off appearances in Daytona. They are partnered. Say that again.
Wasn't he the guy pushing the 21?
Yep, that's what I'm about to get to. Okay. That car's partnered with RCR. Guess who finished 2nd? Kyle Busch, an RCR car. On the final restart, Kyle Busch was adamant that he did not want Parker Retzlaff behind him. He wanted his former teammate Christopher Bell behind him because he trusted him more than the rookie, which makes sense. It didn't work out. As we know, Harrison Burton won the race. Apparently, Chevy and RCR are pissed that the 62 pushed the 21 to the win. And apparently, Parker got a phone call this week about his behavior.
So was he
behavior?
So was he
what
just
behavior?
supposed to? Was he just supposed to just hold the brake?
I don't know what he was supposed to do. Apparently, he was just supposed to take out Christopher Bell and get behind the 8 car and push him to the win. Like that team didn't just lose a win because they did something stupid like the week prior. RCR, they can never make me like you at this point. I'm completely out on RCR. You are not the number 1 Hendrick team, my guy. I mean, you're not the number 1 Chevy team, my guy. You're not even the number 2 Hendrick Chevy team, my guy. Hendrick is number 1. Actually, you might be the number 2 Chevy team. Let me not be that guy. But it's a distant number 2 between you and Hendrick. And you walk around like you're the number 1 because that guy you're friends with has you smoking on that Superman pack. But buddy, NASCAR's been your kryptonite once already. And then Harrison Burton was your kryptonite a second time. You're not that guy. I don't know who's pumping you up that makes you think that everybody should be scared of you. Ain't nobody scared of you, Richard. Ain't nobody scared of you. Parker Retzlaff did what he had to do because he is trying to get a job. He does not have a Cup Series ride next year. The seats are full up, so he's probably not going to get one. He's trying to get into the free agent pool for 2025 or 2026 or 2027, whenever. You know what's going to help him? Going out there for himself and making good runs. You know what he did on Saturday night? He finished 7th. Had an opportunity to win the race. Yes, he got help because half the cars wrecked because that's what happened at super speedway races. But guess what? He was still in position to win that race and did the best job that he could for himself and his team, not for RCR because he doesn't work for them. I don't care if the car is partnered for you. You don't sign his checks, Richard. Gone does. Or sorry, not Gone. Beard Motorsports does. Excuse me. They sign his check. More likely, the sponsor Parker brought with him signs his check. And they don't sign the check for him to help Kyle Busch win because that's your car. As I said earlier, you had 25 races to get that car into the playoffs and have failed to do it. That's your fault, not Parker's. And for Chevy, I'm just glad my favorite driver drives a Toyota now because I'm tired of y'all's nonsense. It is not up to Parker to help Kyle Busch, especially when Kyle Busch didn't want his help. And the only way he was going to get that help was probably going to get your win invalidated because NASCAR's already said they're not playing those games anymore. But y'all want to sit around, keep playing them stupid prizes, fine. Do you. But guess what? If Kyle doesn't get through here on Sunday, and he's probably not because you can't bring consistent cars to the track, and he's not in the playoffs, don't blame Parker Retzlaff last week. Blame yourself. Blame your engine shop. Blame the people that have been putting your setups together, not Parker, because it's not his fault. He did what he had to do for himself and did a great job. Whether it turns into something, we don't know. But I'd rather him go out there and run for himself than sacrifice his future to help him, to help Kyle. So that's what I got to say on the Parker Retzlaff situation. If anybody else wants to tag in, they can. But I'm tired of the drama surrounding RCR. I really am.
I agree with you 100%. Like I said earlier, Kyle Busch knows how to win races. If he can't do it on his own, especially after he specifically said he didn't want the guy's help, get over it.
It's frustrating.
That's hard to do, Jen.
It really is. So before we go to a quick break, the NASCAR 2025 schedules have all been released for Cup, Xfinity, and Trucks. And the big news out of the NASCAR schedule, the Cup Series is going to Mexico City next year. Richmond Raceway is going to give up a date for NASCAR to go south of the border for a race at the Mexico City Street Course. Before we get to it, Ben Kennedy already said Kyle Busch's legal issue from the firearm incident has been resolved. He can go run in Mexico City, so we don't have to worry about that. So, Chris, we haven't heard from you all night, so I'll throw this one to you. Have you got a chance to look at the NASCAR Cup Series schedule, and what do you think about NASCAR heading to Mexico City?
I think it's great going internationally, especially when you've got Daniel Suarez and a very big group of fans down there. It's good to, kind of get out and expose yourself to other nationalities, other cultures. I think it's going to be a great move for them. I'm looking forward to it. I think it's great. As far as the rest of the schedule, pretty much as expected. I just, as a upstate New York native, I'm just very curious why Watkins Glen got the boot out of the playoffs without actually even having a race in the playoffs. And Watkins Glen is definitely the best road course.
Well, no, I think Watkins Glen is in the playoffs. Hold on, let me make sure.
They got pulled.
Hold on, let me look. Yeah, they're out of the playoffs. Yeah.
So we got this year in the playoffs.
Right, they're in this year.
Yeah. So it's mind-boggling to me. I don't get it, but whatever.
Well, what I will say is it's moved back to its traditional spot because the schedule is a little wonky this year because of the Olympic break. So some tracks got moved around. It would have been nice to see Watkins Glen kind of hold on to that spot. What I will say, what I'm happy for, is we actually have some Saturday night races again this year. So next year. We'll have June 28th at Atlanta, and then back-to-back at Richmond and Daytona next year for Saturday night races. And then we'll also have Bristol as Saturday night.
Do we have any Sunday noon 1 o'clock races?
Don't know yet.
Yeah.
Probably not.
Yeah. We have as good of a chance as that as Aston Martin has a win in the Constructors.
We also have Rockingham.
We'll say that for F1.
Yeah, we'll say that for F1 because we got a lot to talk about over there, which is actually coming up next.
Stay tuned.
And I'll throw this one to Jen and Michael before we take a break. Rockingham is back on the Xfinity Truck Series schedule. That track used to be a mainstay, used to be the traditional second race of the season for a little while before it went away. A lot of people are excited for this, but are folks actually going to go? Because we can have these nostalgia trips all we want. It doesn't matter if folks don't go to the races.
That is very true. I mean,
Someone is
typing furiously.
yes.
Yeah, I
should have been muted.
For some reason, it wasn't muted.
You shouldn't have heard me. I muted.
Weird.
You were just that powerful.
Okay, I muted. Tried talking. You didn't hear me, so I think we're good.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. I just saw a post earlier today about the White Sox. They had an attendance of 17. Record attendance of 17. 17. Not 1,700, not 17,000. 17. 17. So,
please tell me you're joking.
I am not. I am not. So, like, what's the point of playing or participating if you're doing it in front of a handful of people? It loses its value.
Yeah, it doesn't make a lot of sense. I hope that people show up because the last time they tried this, they had one race where it was all full. Then the next race, no one really showed up. So it's going to be up to folks to actually like go to the race because NASCAR has said if you do not have a lot of folks going to your races, you will not have a race or a second race like what happened to Richmond. Richmond had wonky attendance this year. The first race was well attended. The second race was not. Of course, it was a Sunday night race in D.C. It was hot as hell, but that doesn't matter. They lost their race. So now they have one on Saturday. If folks don't show up, Rockingham won't be on the schedule. And yeah, I'm looking it up. That Chicago White Sox game yesterday, 17 people.
Yeah. I mean, that's what happens when you lose 132 games.
Yeah. Well, they haven't yet, but they're going to. That team is god-awful. But
they're not at 132 yet? Is it still 131?
Yeah, they're at 103. But they're on the pace to get there.
Oh, that's right. It was 101. I'm sorry. Not 31. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, they had a 1 hour, 29-minute rain delay, but still.
Yeah, the Guardians did too. They had it was like a 2-hour rain delay, but there were more than 17 people there after the rain delay.
Yeah, and that's 17 people. That number for the attendance is the amount of tickets they sold.
That's horrendous.
So if they only sold 17 tickets for that game,
there were probably less than that there.
Yeah,
actually in attendance.
Yeah. So
wow.
We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, speaking of terrible attendance, Formula One driver got fired, and Formula One's going to also need a new safety car for this week. We'll talk about that on the other side of this break here on the Extra Mile on iSports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
What's up, Pittsburgh? This is Ralph DeLeese, the host of the Injury Report on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Are you that passionate diehard Steelers, Penguins, Pirates, or just a Pittsburgh sports fan? Then please join me on the Injury Report every Tuesday on IE Sports Radio, the direct feed for all that is sports, and I will update you on all that's black and gold, and have you telling your Pittsburgh fans and friends what's up with Pittsburgh sports. Tune in Tuesday with me, Ralph Calise, the Injury Report on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Let's go!
What's up, sports fans? You're listening to IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. I'm your favorite West Coast Wisconsinite, Bernie Bango, and if you're a cheesehead, come listen to my show, Big Cheese Sports, where we road trip around America's Dairyland, previewing, reviewing, predicting, debating, and digging into all that is Wisconsin sports at the college and pro levels. Join me on IE Sports Radio, Sundays at 1 p.m. Central Standard. Bernie out.
And we're back here in the Extra Mile on iSports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Michael Ward, Christopher Lehman, Jenn B, and myself, Darryl Kinsey Jr., here with you this evening. We're going to go ahead and get into Formula One and start with a strange incident during the opening festivities of the Italian Grand Prix, which is scheduled for this Sunday. Unfortunately, Bert Mylander, the safety car driver for Formula One, lost the brakes going into the Parabolica, which is the long sweeping right-hand corner final turn on the racetrack, went spinning into the tire barrier. Thankfully, everyone is okay. So that is good to note. But a scary incident. I would show it, but Formula One's copyright hawk is sharp, and we will get nuked from orbit if I show it. So we're not going to do that. But that was scary. We're thankfully that everyone is okay. And Chris, you showed us the video during the break, and it's really a strange incident that happened with this car.
You're muted.
You're muted.
Yep, I see that. Yeah, I think it's really heads up driving. Coming into that corner with a high rate of speed, he knew that he had lost his brakes, so he threw it into a controlled spin, and he really lost a lot of speed and momentum doing that. So I think it was really heads up. And then just kind of what I thought was, and I mean, we see videos of him all the time. He's a fantastic driver. He drifts that car around the corners. I mean, this guy's kind of a badass behind the wheel. And by kind of, I mean, he's certified.
Yes.
And so he threw it into a controlled spin, dissipated a lot of speed. And when he was actually facing away from the wall, you hear him just hit the throttle as hard as he can. And I'm sure that probably saved him a couple miles an hour too. But just great heads up driving by him. Probably took away half of his speed, which in the safety car, I mean, these don't quite have the, I mean, they're safe, but they're not quite as safe as the race cars themselves. So, yeah, it was just crazy. It was a crazy thing to kind of like not necessarily wake up to, but like that first like news notification of the day you get is that. So it was kind of crazy. But glad that everybody's all right.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we've had enough with wild crashes this year. Speaking of wild crashes, Logan Sargent, well, he wrecked his last Formula One car during free practice during the Dutch Grand Prix on Sunday. He has been fired from Williams. He will take no further part in the season. Williams replaced him with a driver whose name I'm going to Google because I don't want to mess it up. Argentine Franco Colapinto will be taking over that car.
What's his nationality?
Argentinian.
Oh, wow.
Franco Colapinto. He's the first Argentine to drive on the Formula One circuit in about 20 years, which it's been a while since we've had a driver from Argentina. But as we look at the remains of Logan Sargent's Formula One career, Chris, I don't think he was really given a chance to succeed given the car he was in and the sudden, I'll say, undue pressure he was under to perform.
Yeah, I don't think he really got a fair shake at developing. However, you have to out-qualify your teammate occasionally, and he was never able to out-qualify Alex Albon, who's a good racer by all means. He's good behind the wheel. But, 1 point score finish, which take that with a grain of salt because it is Williams, but they should have at least let him finish out the year. And I feel like they did him really dirty at, I think it was Monaco, where they didn't even let him race because Albon binned it.
I think that was Suzuka.
Was it?
Yeah, it was Suzuka.
Okay. But yeah, Albon bins it, and then they say, okay, Logan, you're not racing this weekend. Alex is taking your car. So I thought, that basically told us, like, this guy's a goner, right? You knew then. So, I don't know. I'm bummed for him. It sucks.
Yeah.
But I think he'll find a home somewhere. You can't be a bum and get into Formula One at the end of the day.
I hate just to cut in here. It's like another thing is just to double back on what you said. It's just he wasn't ready. I think he might have needed another year, maybe an F2, to get himself situated, or maybe another year of testing just to get a feel for everything and then debut.
He got a better shot at it than Nick DeVries, but
yeah, and I don't know. In F1, it's really difficult because you quite literally have to hit the ground running.
Yeah, Nick DeVries never got a shot, by the way. I'm still mad about what happened with him.
That's fine. He's killing it in Toyota, so that's fine.
Yeah, he found another job. And Jen, we were talking about this kind of in like NFL terms earlier when we were talking about some of the cuts that were made. It's surprising to see a driver so young lose his job like this. He doesn't even get to finish the season.
Yeah, that's unusual. Especially that young. Usually like to see guys get a shot for a few years, like we were talking about the Browns cutting their third round draft pick from last season this year. Something obviously went very, very wrong because the Browns, for one, do not generally bail on their draft picks. So it's unfortunate. Hopefully he will get another shot.
I think you should at least be able to see out the end of the season.
Right.
Before you get axed off. Because it's like, you're going to get, axed out of the team. But at least, you get to finish off the season.
Yeah, I wish he was able to finish the season. I think that's my big thing. And, Chris, I'll bring it to you. I just feel like, yes, he did damage some cars, but what is it really costing to have him finish the season? It's not like Williams is going to get that many seats. They're not really being harassed from behind in the points. So just let the kid finish the year, try to latch on, really not in Formula One, but put some more game tape out there for somebody to pick him up.
Yeah, I don't understand. The new kid's not bringing any money with him, is he?
No.
Yes, it's not like there's really, short of just if you're confident this kid can come in and just not wreck, right? That's about the only benefit, is that you're just saying your job is to come in and bring it home clean every time. Doesn't matter how you finish your job, bring it home. And if that's the case, then sure, right? Whatever. But I don't know. I don't see the harm in letting the kid finish out, but a business is a business, and at the end of the day, they had some reason to do it. What that reason is, I don't know.
Yeah, Williams finished currently ninth right now with 4 points in the constructor standings. Kick Sauber Ferrari behind them with a goose egg on the year, and I just don't see that Kick Sauber scoring any points this year.
I think
Bottas and Zhou have been given a cruise ship to try to drive around this year, and it's just not working.
I think they're just waiting for Audi to just go ahead and pick them up.
I also think at this point this is a throwaway year for Sauber. I think they figured that out early. But speaking of Logan, where do we think he shows up? Obviously, he won't be Formula One next year, but there's a lot of World Endurance Championship teams that are going to want to take a look at him for next year, I think.
Yeah, and isn't Prema coming to IndyCar?
They are next season.
There you go. He's got some options.
Yeah. I think having him race in IndyCar would do a lot. It would bring him back home. It would give him an opportunity to show that, hey, I do actually have some skills, and it was just the Williams. So I hope that he can have a chance to come back.
I also think IMSA would also be really good for him. Give him, he'll be at home, and then also he'll have other drivers he can also lean on or get experience from. It's a lot of racing talent in IMSA.
Speaking of IMSA, GT3 cars are going to be allowed in the VP Sprint Challenge next year.
Ooh.
So there will be 3 cars in that category, or 3 types of cars in that category, joining P3s and GT4s. So that'll be something worth watching. And unfortunately, Chris, we have to get to it. You have that flag behind you, but
okay, guys, it's been a great night. I appreciate being on as always. I will see you guys at the next.
Chris, you don't get to pull at me now. Come on.
Look, it's the first time we've had you on since all this has happened, but they are in trouble. We've been saying it jokingly, but I think after Max goes to his home track that he's dominated at, and he loses by 22 seconds, we can say it officially. He's in trouble of losing this championship.
I don't want to say losing the championship, mostly because of Chris, back me up here. I'm defending your man now. I'm defending your team here.
Say it again, Darryl.
I think I seriously think he's
a Funko Pop.
I really think he's at risk of losing this championship.
He actually
No, he just had the Funko Pop up there. But I really do think that car is in trouble.
You tell me about it. Oh, I'm muted.
Sorry, I had to mute you because we were here in the last
night.
night.
Tell me about it, Darryl. Yeah, I keep my Funkos in the box.
Yeah.
I mean, you never know when you'll get them autographed.
Yeah,
I just that's the truth. No, someone's.
Go ahead.
Yeah, it's rough. Now I know how everybody feels last year, and the year before.
Now he knows how we feel.
Yeah, and the first part of this year,
and the last 6 years of Mercedes dominance.
Yeah,
yeah, and the 2000s Ferrari dominance.
Yeah. It just feels like the balance on that Red Bull. I don't know what they did with the upgrades. It did not work.
They're reverting back now.
I think they need to. The car was unstoppable before.
They are. I said they should just put the RB19 back out. At least Max was comfortable in that car.
Yeah.
But they are. It is announced that they are going to be slowly phasing back and mixing in old parts with the new parts, specifically on the floor.
Mhm.
So Max also ran a floor this week that was 0.2 slower than Checo's. So they are mixing it up and trying to figure out how to get the balance back because from what I've seen, Max says that the car is basically undrivable,
He
which
did say
is
something like that. Yeah.
which is not good.
It's not good when he's saying that, and you could see it on the onboards during the race. That car had no turn-in grip, and then
No.
it's pushing like a dump truck off because loose in, you try to overcompensate, you end up tight off. It's
Yep.
not doing what an F1 car is supposed to do.
Yeah, and I don't think he likes the brakes.
He said he didn't.
Yeah, he's not in love with the brakes, and that's what his thing is he brakes late, like later than anybody else, and that's what he does. So the fact that this car does not play to him at all, really, that's what's going wrong. Is that they have a demigod of aerodynamics, and they just said, you know what, bud, we're going to just not do what you say.
Yeah, I don't get that.
So if I have Adrian Newey, I'm like letting that guy do everything. But they didn't, and we're paying the price. And I thought, if anything, if this comes down to the whole off-season drama that we had, I think the wrong person is leaving Red Bull.
Well,
actually, the wrong two, because we lost Jonathan Wheatley this year too.
Yeah.
So that's like a double blow.
We all know that the choice was Christian. The person that should have been leaving was Christian Horner.
Yeah,
I think we all know that.
And now you see Adrian Newey's leaving, Jonathan Wheatley's leaving, and I think that realistically, Jonathan Wheatley doesn't take that job if Horner's gone, and he is the heir. He was the heir apparent to Horner. Now there is no power. There is no realistic next person, unless you're looking at GP, who's not even Max's race engineer anymore. Mm-hmm. Now he's moved up. And like I was listening to the radio, and it was pretty much all Christian talking to Max. So it's almost like
GP isn't an engineer anymore.
He got promoted, so I don't know if it's already I think it was effective like the summer break, but
I'm gonna miss him.
Yeah,
his banter with Max is legendary.
Yeah,
they seemed like an old married couple. It was hilarious.
Yeah, I think GP didn't take Max, his radio stuff very seriously, and I just worry what Christian effect is going to have. Christian is like that abusive partner who's starting to see his control lift, and now he's just squeezing harder.
Yeah, and I mean, him and Jos Verstappen are now openly going at it in the media. So we have that to look forward to now. And while all of this is going on, they're only 34 points up in the Constructors' title. Max is only 70 points up in the Drivers' title with 9 races to go. The math is there. It's going to be tight, but it's there for Lando to win this championship. And the points are a lot easier, especially with Checo doing Checo things, which is Jack and you-know-what behind the wheel, that they're going to lose the Constructors' lead that they've had for over 2 years.
Yeah. Yep. All because they didn't listen to Adrian Newey.
Yep.
It's wild. The self-destruction. Yeah. I agree with you. 100% I agree with you. They picked the wrong person. And like, I don't know if you guys saw, but Toto Wolff basically said that like a huge regret he has is after the British GP a couple of years ago, he never called Max to ask how he was.
Mm-hmm.
and he said that he lost the Verstappen camp that day, and that's a huge regret because I think he's thinking like, if I had called that day, I might have Max for 2025. I think that's legitimately what his thoughts are, is that because he said that like I lost the Verstappen camp that day.
I think he could get him back. To be honest,
I think
the way this is going,
will. I think he will.
That's why they haven't announced anybody for that second seat yet, next to George. They think they can still get Max Verstappen. They think he's going to activate his brake clause and leave. He still can.
Yeah.
And
I wouldn't be surprised, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
The only thing that I have trouble with is the fact that Red Bull is like my favorite energy drink. It has been since I was like 15, and it will suck to not have him in the Red Bull stuff anymore.
It's going to be weird seeing him with a Monster logo.
But I guess it's going to be, I guess it'll be weird to see like Lewis and Ferrari. Like,
yeah, it's going to look so
there's going
weird
to
next year.
Going to be some weirdness going on anyway. So,
yeah.
But
I wonder what the sponsors are going to look like on the Ferrari, because it's not going to be Santander anymore.
It won't be
it's gonna be
CrowdStrike.
Interesting. But here's what else. I'll go around the room with this before we move on to the Italian GP preview. We'll start with Chris. Does Max hold on to this championship?
I think so. I think it's going to come down to a 2021 situation. Maybe not like tied with points, but
close.
The Abu Dhabi, the race will be decided, or the championship will be decided at Abu Dhabi. Mm-hmm. I think that I was reading, and it sounds like Zach Brown is fairly confident with a couple of the tracks coming up that Red Bull is just going to have a competitive car, which I think, reading between the lines, means he thinks they have a really good shot at winning. So I think that if it comes down to, Max and Lando being close, I think I give the upper hand to Max. But I think Lando's going to do good. Then the only reason that I say that Max might still win too is because Piastri's now slouch, and he is not. Maybe he'll give Lando a win, but I don't think so. I think if Piastri's in the right spot, he's not. Everything all right?
I don't know if you heard that, but we just had a loud thunderclap just go off.
No, didn't hear it.
Okay,
but
yeah, I know what you're talking about there.
Yeah,
but I think Piastri could play into how this championship rolls out.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I imagine Piastri will maybe do Lando a favor, because he did do him a favor.
Only after he screwed him.
I mean, was it him that screwed him, or was it the team that screwed him?
It was more the pit wall that screwed him. So they're going to have to pay that one back.
I mean, the thing is if they got like Piastri in first, Max in second, Lando in third, they are not going to do anything. They're going to let Piastri win. And I think that that's a realistic scenario, like a 1, 2, 3 with, Max second, Piastri first, Lando third. I think that's a realistic scenario. And if that happens, that throws the championship off a little bit. So I think he still wins it, but by very few points.
Jen, what do you think?
I think he will hold on, but I do think that there is a slight chance that Lando comes through.
Mm-hmm. I think that Lando's in the driver's seat. I really do, but they're gonna have to keep this streak going, and they can have no mistakes like they had earlier in the year. If they have another strategy, they're done. And I think that it'll be enough for Verstappen to hold on.
I think Verstappen will definitely win the championship, mostly because it's Max Verstappen. He's generational talent, and if he's not only is he quick, he's very consistent. So I think his consistency will definitely win him the championship.
We shall see. It is going to be an interesting run to the end of the year. We have some major storms coming into this area, so we're going to truncate the IndyCar conversation a little bit. Will Power picked up a dominating win on Sunday. Alex Palou finished second in that race, but the unfortunate star of the show was Roman Grosjean, who absolutely binned it. He forced Colton Herta off the racetrack, got a penalty for that. Later had a self-spin, ran into another car while trying to rejoin, got another penalty. Grosjean, the second half of this season, it's looking a lot like the end of his Formula One career, where just a lot of unforced errors and self-spins and crashes. What is going on with our boy?
I do not know, but it is starting to sound like the end of his Formula One career. That's the sad part. And the end of his Formula One career was not great.
It was not pretty at all. Jen, do you think we've got 3 races left? Do you think he can clean it up and at least finish the season on a decent note?
I sure hope so. I think we've had enough messy driving in all areas. Like, so these guys gotta control their cars.
And Chris, we saw this at Haas when Grosjean was wrapping up, and we saw it at the end of his Renault career as well. When he feels pressure, Grosjean starts making a lot of unforced mistakes. And it feels like that's happening again.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with that. Yeah. It does seem like he is prone to mental errors. So yeah, I think that's a very accurate assessment. And the problem, like, that's like good and well if you when you're good, you can really, preface those down times or follow them up with some really high highs. You know what I mean? Like if you can be putting together multiple wins, have some bad stuff happen, then you kind of tailspin. But Grosjean's just kind of like always been mid, and then just.
I didn't mean to laugh. I'm sorry.
But you know what I mean, though. I wouldn't say that he's necessarily like a superstar or anything like that. He's just a serviceable driver.
It's like, if I could describe his career, it's like he has glimmers of greatness, and they just never follow through.
Yeah, and then it turns into this tailspin of half a season of mental errors. But yeah, Darryl, you were absolutely right. He's prone to mental errors, and then it just kind of gets worse as they start stacking up.
Yeah, he's gonna have to clean that up for Juncos, as that is a relatively small team. They just got back to the IndyCar schedule, and they can't really afford a bunch of torn up race cars. And unfortunately, that's a lot of what Grosjean's brought them this year. So it's going to be an exciting weekend of racing. IndyCar will be at the Milwaukee Mile. You can check that out on NBC. F1 will be at the Italian Grand Prix. You can watch that on ESPN. NASCAR will be on NBC with the Cookout Southern 500. And, of course, the NHRA on NHRA TV and Fox, the U.S. Nationals. Make sure to check that out as well. But, hey, folks, we're going to get ready to get out of here. For Jenn, Chris, and Michael, I'm Darryl. Thank you for listening to this edition of The Extra Mile, and we will see you at the next green flag. Good night, everybody.
Meow.